We are now 22 sleeps away from the start of the 2024 NFL draft. That's 3 weeks in a day if you're counting. And Washington will start the draft at number 2. And we know the vibes at number 2. We know what the hell is happening when we get on that board with the second pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And I can smell it, baby. We are so close. We have finally made it. This is the Super Bowl of the offseason, the spectacle that is the NFL draft. Something I get excited for every year because every year you can expect plot twists, you can expect fun and unpredictability. Like you could just smell it in the air. Someone will fall, someone will get picked who has no reason going that high. And once they start the draft process on the happiest day of these prospects' lives, you know the broadcast team is going to pencil in and start harping on childhood trauma because ESPN, they cannot get enough of it. I swear NFL Network, they don't do that shit as much as ESPN. But ESPN, they can't wait to talk to these kids about the worst moments of their life when they put their draft hat and grab that jersey after they hug Roger Goodell. They walk over to that microphone to do some interview with Susie Colbert or somebody, and immediately after getting drafted, they start getting hit with questions like, oh my God, I can't believe you got here. How does it feel to make it here after your father was murdered when you were 7 years old? Please don't do that, guys. Please don't ruin my draft experience. That shit dampers the draft every year. Please let these guys be excited. But let's get back on topic of today's video. I watched Lance Zierlein, about a 45-minute interview on his mock draft, one of the most interesting mock drafts I've seen thus far. And also, in combination, I saw a video of Monty Ossenfort, GM of the Cardinals, war room access to their draft last year, of how they maneuvered the boards and how he worked that phone like Leo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street to move back and then move back up in the draft last year when the Cardinals jumped from 5 to 12 back up in the top 6 to get a tackle. They played that shit perfectly. He maneuvered that board like Sonny Weaver Jr. in draft day, but Lance Zierlein had us trading back into the first round after selecting a quarterback at 2. I've been preaching all offseason that Washington has robust enough draft capital that they can be flexible and they can be calculatedly aggressive in the draft. And I want us to absolutely make some trades on draft night. You can move up the board, you can move down the board. I want us making shit shake. Adam Peters, this is your world to show us what you got, baby. Let's get it. Like, there are multiple ways Washington can attack trades and using the trade market during the NFL draft. And there are still some candidates from other teams that we could be interested in acquiring via trade during the draft as well. So we're going to get into Washington certainly drafting a quarterback at number 2, but then what? What comes next? But before we get into Washington's trade options, I want to start by quickly addressing 2 overall. As we sit here on Wednesday, April 3rd, I am still firmly welcoming Drake May or Jaden Daniels to the Commanders with absolute open arms. Would gladly take either, and I'm warming up to the idea if it somehow became JJ McCarthy. But as we stand here 22 days from the draft, I currently think Jaden Daniels is the pick. I think he's the pick. I think that's the guy the team is fully on board for, and I think he's going to be the selection. You know, per usual, that shit could flip-flop all over the place over these next 22 days as we await the draft. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to be the pick as of April 3rd. Could change, to be determined. Stick with me. But we're at the point now of the offseason where we should have firm context on the cornerback discussion. Every nuance, nook, cranny, every I dotted, every T crossed, every compare, contrast, juxtaposition, strengths, weaknesses, the whole 9. We've seen the pro days. I've watched every drop back May had at UNC. I've watched every drop back Jaden Daniels had at LSU, and I might want to go back to Arizona State, even though it doesn't feel quite relevant right now. We know exactly who these guys are. We know what we're doing. There will not be no trading back from number 2. We are taking a goddamn quarterback, the building block, face of the future for the franchise. And then what? And then what? We know what's happening at number 2. It gets interesting and it gets real after number 2. But I'm firmly content with our options at quarterback at the number 2 pick. We are the start of the draft to most people. And then what do we do after we get off the board at number 2? Washington signing every player in the world this offseason while not spending most of the team's money while doing so, freed up the opportunity to be flexible in the draft. They've hit on so many needs that there's only 2 real glaring needs on the roster that needs to be addressed with our first 2 picks. And our top non-quarterback picks, our top non-quarterback needs as we stand here on April 3rd is the tackle position, because currently our tackle position on this roster looks less than stellar. It looks less than stellar. It's not the move. I don't know exactly what we're doing right now, but no, it's clear there's a plan. They're planning to address this shit in the draft. You're not going to tell me that they ignored the offensive tackle position all offseason for us to not be prioritizing one in the draft. Andrew Wiley's the right tackle for now, but Cornelius Lucas, swing tackle, I don't think he's starting the year at left tackle. Don't listen to that coach speak that Adam Peters was telling y'all at the owners meeting. They have to say that. They have to instill confidence in the guys that are currently on the roster. But top 3 non-quarterback needs as we stand here on April 3rd, 22 days before the draft. Tackle, cornerback, and this one's going to shock some people. It shouldn't shock you at all, though. Wide receiver. Wide receiver is the number 3 need for the Washington Commanders going into the NFL draft. And before you start with that, we have 2 great receivers. I'm going to stop you right there, champ. We have 1 really good receiver and a bunch of question marks mid and meh at the wide receiver position. The 1 really good receiver, Scary Terry McLaurin. You already know the vibes. Then after that, Jahan Dotson in year 3. Don't know what he is, but I do know his ass needs to be in the slot. We need a starting boundary receiver opposite Terry, and I don't think we have one in Dax Milne, Mitchell Tinsley, Bryson Tremaine, Olamide Zaccheaus, or that Jamison Crowder, Davian Davis, Casimir Allen, or that garbage can Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown is about 1 more offseason away from starting for the DC Defenders of the UFL, formerly the XFL. He's not it, and we are done pretending to make fetch happen with Dyami Brown. So it's Terry, absolute dog. Jahan, I don't know, but I think he could thrive in a slot. And a lot of question marks. Jamison Crowder's old and reliable. If you need him to play, don't want him to be playing too much. But we brought in Cliff Kingsbury to run this offense. An air raid offense consists of a whole lot of 3, 4, 5 receiver sets out of the shotgun. There's a whole lot of spreading the field out because the main purpose of an air raid offense is to attack every blade of grass on the football field. Make the defense have to account for every single part of the football field and have a quarterback that can layer the ball all over the field. And if we draft the guy I think we're drafting at number 2, we're going to spread guys out, and we're going to have a quarterback that can also kill you with his legs. So the defense is going to have to make a choice. It's going to be a pick your poison type situation with the distributor of the football and all the receivers we're going to be playing. But just to summarize, our top 3 non-quarterback needs, to me, Rio Robinson, tackle, meaning left and right tackle, cornerback, and wide receiver. Cornerback, I honestly would flip-flop corner and receiver because they have to make something shake with St. Juice in Forbes. I think we could draft a corner somewhere in here, but I believe in the ability of Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn, and it's what every Cowboys fan has told me. If there's anything them boys going to do, they're going to get your secondary right immediately. But corner is a premier position in this league. I would say quarterback, tackle, edge rusher, corner. That's how I would prioritize the most valuable positions in football. But these are Washington's options to trade. So our next pick comes at number 36 in the second round. We have 36 and 40. Then we have 3 third-round picks. I just watched the trade take place between Houston and Minnesota. Minnesota is posturing itself to draft a quarterback. They had the 11th pick of the draft. They added a second first-round pick by trading their second, number 42, and number 188 in a second next year to get number 23. So, in summary, the Vikings to add picks 23. So now they have 11 and 23. They gave the Houston Texans second rounder number 42, sixth rounder number 188, and a 2025 second. So 2 seconds and a sixth got them from 42 to 23. Washington should have an easier time moving up from 36 or 40 to the 20 somewhere, maybe even the bottom teens of the bottom teens of the NFL draft. We have plenty of options. So option number 1, like Lance Zierlein did in his mock draft yesterday, Washington moves 2 seconds and a fifth to get up and trade. He had him taking Amarius Mims. So option number 1 for trades for Washington in the draft, trade back into the first round for a tackle. The way that the tackles are going off this year, they're saying they expect as much as 8 tackles going in the first round of the draft. I'm not waiting until picks 36. I'm putting my left tackle on a 5-year contract with my quarterback in the first round, and I'm moving up. I'm first calling the teams to see if any of them boys are interested in trading in the teams before I start calling teams in the 20. I know on the mock draft machine, the easiest team to do a deal with for whatever reason is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 26th pick, but I'm going to start calling people around 14, 15, 16 because there's a guy that Washington fans have an affinity for, a homegrown guy that for whatever reason has now dropped to offensive tackle 4 to the majority of draft pundits. Olu Fashanu. People have him going from like 12 to like 19. I've seen so many mocks and I've heard so many draft people that just aren't as high on him, but still think he has one of the higher ceilings, especially as a pass blocker. If we could somehow pair Jaden or May up with Olu Fashanu, amazing. But there's also Talise Fuanga. There's Amarius Mims. There's Jordan Morgan. There's Troy Fountainu. There's Tyler Guyton. There's Kingsley Suamatai. There are tackles for days, and I'm not waiting till 36 to draft one. I need one of them boys coming home on night 1. I need them saying Washington won night 1 of the draft because they left with a franchise quarterback and a bookend stalwart left tackle. Trade option number 1 for this draft thing that I'm doing right now. Our trade options for the 2024 NFL draft is trading back into the first for a left tackle. Trade option number 2. You want to get sexy? You have another second rounder and 2 fifth rounders. You can trade back up into the first again. You can literally take a tackle and a receiver. You can get a tackle, you can get a quarterback, a tackle, and a receiver in round 1. Say Brian Thomas Jr. starts falling in the 20. Say we want a Keon Coleman because we want the 6'3 prototype 220 wide receiver that can go up and get it, one of the best pass route runners in the class. Say we fall in love with one of these receivers, and we also want the 5th-year option on him. We have enough draft capital to get sexy, to get absolutely freaky with it. We can trade the other second and another 5th, and we'd still have 3 third-rounders and a 5th-round pick in this draft and still have 5 more picks to go after selecting 3 times in the first round. I'm not being crazy. I've seen teams do it. Imagine how fun night one of the draft would be. Imagine how crazy me, Tay Todd, Jalen, Alex, and Zach are going to be going on my draft stream if we trade back into the first round twice. We have the cap flexibility. We have the draft capital, a robust amount of draft capital to move up for it. We got another one. It could be for a receiver or a corner. The receiver class is deeper, but if you fall in love with a guy, trade up for him again. So option number one, trade back into the first round for a tackle. Option number two, trade back up again into the first round because you have so much draft capital. You fall in love with a tackle and a receiver. You fall in love with two tackles. You fall in love with a tackle and a corner. Whatever you want to do, the world is our oyster because we acquired so many picks and we handled so many needs in free agency that we can be calculated and aggressive as fuck when we get on that clock when the NFL draft starts. We can get back into the first two more times if we choose so. Option number three, trade. You can do what we just did, or you can also make trades to teams outside of Washington. Say Jayden Daniels is the pick. We can do the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown relationship thing and hire one of his best friends he played with in college by trading for Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers, who is disgruntled and wants to be featured more in an offense. Bring him on down to Washington. You get Jayden Daniels, a guy he played with at Arizona State, one of his best friends in the league, and it's going to take a pick or two in a contract. So it'll probably be one of our second round picks, maybe some type of like pick swap later, or like a sixth or seventh, and an extension. And I'm cool with that because Terry's going up in age. Ayuk is young as hell and very productive, already seen all pros, baller, and he produces despite the fact that he's like the fifth option. He's like the fourth on the totem pole in San Francisco. They have Christian McCaffrey, Greg Kittle, Deebo Samuel. Like they have a lot going on over there. And he wants to be featured. He would be featured here because he would probably be the best outside receiver on the roster. Him and Terry, both number ones on the outside. Jahan Dotson becoming Slotty Pippen. We can make a trade for Brandon Ayuk. Another guy that was kind of rumored that we were interested in, cornerback Greg Newsome. Instead of adding another young guy to the room, you can add a young guy with experience. He's a guy who's seeking a contract as well, but he's a Browns corner that's getting phased out of the room in Cleveland who wants a fresh start as well. Greg Newsome fits the mold for a Dan Quinn type of cornerback. So there are so many options if Washington wants to shake shit up and make some trades, starting with getting back into the first round for a tackle, getting back again and trading back into the first two times and taking a wide receiver or corner to pair with the tackle and quarterback. Or we could choose the route of doing a combination of one of the two I just explained and go after a Brandon Ayuk, go after a Greg Newsome Jr., and just to mess around with the mock draft machine, I'm going to do a quick little mock just to see what we could get. I already pre-made a trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so I already acquired the 26th pick. Let's see how the draft treats us. I think as of right now, Jayden Daniels is going to be the pick, so I'm going to take Jayden Daniels at number 2. Let's see how this board shook out for us. Let's see if any of these tackles are on the board, and I'm looking straight at the guy that I want right now. I'm looking at Tyler Guyton, tackle out of Oklahoma. I like the way Oklahoma tackles do business in the league. Anton Harrison has been nice for the Jaguars. Trent Williams has been the tackle of the generation since we drafted him here. He should have spent his whole career here, but Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen are absolute buffoons. Give me the Oklahoma tackle. Long arms, has an inexperience issue. He has not played too much, but I'll take it. We're gonna mold him, and hopefully Bobby Johnson's year at New York does not show how good he could be of an offensive line coach. Hopefully he gets him right. You are my bookend left tackle going forward. Let's see what we got at 40. I want a receiver here, but I'm not penciled into a specific position. Let's see how the board felt here. Look at Bo Nix still on the board. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. I see Troy Franklin. You know who I'm going with here? Washington is going to get our own juiced up I don't know why he's number 64 on this board, because Xavier Leggett might go round 1 when the NFL draft starts. Give me Xavier Leggett at 40. So we done checked off 3 of them needs I talked about. We done hit tackle, we hit wide receiver, and we hit quarterback so far through the first 2 rounds of the draft. We're not making no trades. I already see what the pick is going to be. I don't have to look long at this list. Zach Ertz is going to be a veteran leader for this team. We need to put a young tight end so we could pair them up with one. We could use both. We can do 2 tight end sets, and we could get JT Sanders here to pair up with Zach Ertz. So we're going very offensive heavy, as you see. We went all offense so far. Now feels like a time that you want to add a premier position. We can go add a guy like Marshawn Nealon. We add us an edge rusher to go with the litany of edge rushers we signed this offseason. We can still be aggressive. We can still hit all our needs if we make trades. We're not giving the whole draft class away just because. I'm going to take a guard here. Give me Dominique Pooney out of Kansas. That left side of the line is looking vicious right now. He's going to compete with Nick Allegretti for that job. We already took a tight end. I like Marshawn Lloyd, the running back out of USC, but let's see what else is on the board. I see another. I don't want to take 2 edges. I think 1 edge is enough. We don't want to do overkill at this point. Johnny Dixon, what's his size? 5'10", 188. I want a big corner for Dan Quinn, because you know the Dan Quinn cornerback profile are the guys that are over 6 feet. Let me see. But I do like Johnny Dixon, even though he was getting this shit mixed up at the Senior Bowl. Let's see. But you get the point. We can be aggressive. I don't need to do a full mock draft because this is not a mock draft video. You get the point. Let's see what Washington did. We made a trade to get back into the first round, and we ended up with Jaden Daniels, Tyler Guyton, Xavier Leggett, JT Sanders, Marshawn Nealon, and Dominique Pooney. Very offensive heavy. I would like 6 of our 9 picks to be offense because we went very heavy shopping on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. There are a lot of ways Washington can attack it, and I would love to see Adam Peters working the phone like that Monty Ossenfort video I saw from the Cardinals yesterday. I need us to record everything Josh Harris and company do from now on through the end of the draft. I want all the access, all the content. I want to see how he gets cooking, because this first off season, this is the identity setter, the culture setter. This sets the table for years to come. This is where we add the young pieces that we plan to be fixtures here so we can develop them over the years and become a sustained winner. That's all I got for right now. If Washington makes some trades in the first, second, third round for a player on another team, what are some trades you're interested in Washington making? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Rio out.